game, relations with ourselves, the world around us, and the greater universe, finding our way back home.
Greetings again, and welcome to another ABE reading. And again, I'll be reading from the communications of the reality game, and I'll be finishing off section 4, relations with the greater universe. So at the end of the last ABE reading, I talked about how we are splintered and we are sleeping on the sofas of other people's homes. We are looking for our home outside of us and not coming back to our home internally. And during this period of rest, where humanity is entering a dip period, says Abe, it's time for more internal work. And internal juices. And on this last part of this segment, Abe talks about service and freedom and how to understand those. Again, I like the clear-cut way that Abe just tries to get through all the entanglements and just speak directly. So on the theme of service, again, Abe says, and this is part of their focus, is that we have to kind of get ourselves sorted out first, get our own home in order before we go out trying to rearrange other people's homes. And so the question of service is first getting service to self sorted out, not in a selfish way, but in a balanced way. Because really, if we are balanced with ourselves, we can be of greater service to others. And service to others becomes a service to self. And of course, we don't live in a vacuum. On this point, Abe says, I quote, "It is all well and good to be of service to others, but if you are but not of service to self too, then you are not then serving others well." It's not about being selfish, but we're not serving others well if we're not first, serving ourselves or in a place of balance, in a good place. And if our own home is messy and untidy, then we're not in the best place to be telling others how to clean their homes up. So it's about getting the balance, not to live in imbalanced polarity, but to be in balance through these polarities, because physical life is a polarity game. And so again, Abe says, quote, For if you try as you might to be of service to others, is that really serving anyone well at all? It is but in the act of self-service, of realigning self, then too will it be a natural flow to be of service. So again, if we realign ourselves, that will set up a natural kind of relational flow that then just connects with others in a better way. It's like when you're around people who are nervous and anxious, it rubs off. So anyone who's in a calm, natural, well-grounded state, that rubs off too. So maybe the best way to kind of be of service to others is to be able to affect these frequencies by bringing them in a balanced way. Because, as Abe tells us, we've never been separated. We've just been deaf. So it's the case of trying to re-perceive that which already exists. And we get entrapped in our own maze. And Abe talks about this maze here. He says, quote, "It has been like a mind maze, and you but do not know which way is out now. You're all upside down, confused as to what is true. You see, it's about clearing the fog, finding a way out of the maze first and foremost." How clear can that be? We can't liberate ourselves if we're in a fog. We're upside down, we're confused as to what is true. Look at the world around us. Look at what we've been projected on the world stage. We don't know what is true anymore. The maze is getting even noisier. So it's even more imperative we find a way through. As Abe says, that the captor doesn't know that they have but captured themselves. We are capturing ourselves and placing ourselves further into the fog of the maze. And so freedom comes from a realization of this. As Abe says, quote, "You realize that you were but always free. You just had to set yourself free." So we have the potentials of our own liberation. In fact, we are, in essence, liberated. We just are not setting ourselves free. And so the responsibility is on us to fulfill our natural capacities. And part of that fog of confusion is that we get lost in our own fancies. We get lost in our own desires and wishes, and we start to distract ourselves with entertainment, maybe with chemical chemical things that we take in. We have extreme social engagement. So we just kind of, do different things to be in this maze. And it's as if we're looking for the wow, technicolor version of life. And Abe says, the truth is not fancy. The truth doesn't have all these frills. And they give a good analogy to this. A longer quote. Abe says, quote, "But you see, truth is not fancy. It's not so frilly and explosive and knocks you off your feet. It is so like you go chasing for love, for the grandeur, and you do so go from one person to another. And you see, there was this one whom was there all along. Not fancy, not shouting from the rooftops, but an undercurrent of nurture, of natural flow. And you think, why did I miss that splendor, that beauty, that magnificence?" So we get caught, end quote, we get caught up in the frills, and we don't see that the magic is always there in the undercurrent, not shouting from the rooftops. It's about connecting with the everyday things in our lives. And Abe has a wonderful expression here. They talk about the extraordinarily ordinary. The magic which is inherent in our ordinary lives that we may miss. We see, but we do not perceive. And he's talking about time to sync up to that to that flow. And we don't need to imbibe all these extra frills. We just have to kind of sync up. Abe says here, quote, talking about the kind of extra substances or extra frills, we don't need the frills. Abe says, quote, "You do not need it now, for you can sync back up and be a flow with the cosmic force that is but ingrained in your very being. That's magnificent. That is but truly magical, and that is but extraordinarily ordinary." So we're extraordinary without needing the external frills. And that's why Abe says we've got to go back to the bare bones, strip off all the extra overcoats, all the layers we've been putting on top of us. We're trying to make ourselves into a false grandeur. As Abe says, the gift is the gift in itself. We are already the gift. Life is a gift. We're just trying to dress it up in some costume. It's like in a fancy dress. We're trying to see life through the lens of a fancy dress, and we're not seeing the beauty of the original costume, the costume of the human being. And and we have to get into that new flow. And it's not about the show; it's about the flow. That makes sense. And it says here that Abe says, quote, "The big show, the big song and dance about it really does need to be dropped now, for you will then only ever bypass truth. bypass what is here and ordinary. And then later Abe says, the truth has been the even grander show that has been playing out all along right under your nose. So, end quote. So the big song and dance has to be dropped. Otherwise, we will bypass truth. It'll pass us by and we won't see it, because truth is ingrained in the ordinary, which is, of course, extraordinary. We've just given it too many cosmetics of the false materialistic grandeur. So bringing it back home, bring it back to the real, the essential, is now about finding the freedom and the service to self, which can then be service to others through the essential, not through the false. So as Abe would say, or as I would say, let's bring it back home and keep it grounded. Okay, cheers now.